Hey guys, so I can't be in class today, so we are going to do a little video lesson in class, and then you guys are going to do a worksheet and an exit quiz. Your only homework is going to be to finish up that worksheet. You guys will have a big quiz next time, so just make sure you're prepared for it and watch any of the other videos if you might be confused on something. So we're going to go ahead and do 8.7. So just to review, my first step whenever I'm just trying to factor this is to see if there's a GCF. It doesn't look like there is, so now I look to see if there's a number in front here to send back. Well, there isn't a number there, so I can just go ahead and look. What multiplies to get me -6, but also adds to get -5? We got -6 and 1, -1 and 6. Looks like that adds to get me -5, so x minus 6 and x plus 1 is my answer. Completely factored. When you guys take the quiz next time, just remember to have that GCF sitting on the outside if you have a GCF. Okay, so we're going to try some of the special cases. So when I look at this is the same thing as x squared plus 0x minus 4. So I need to think of two things that multiply to get me -4 to add to get 0. So I can think of -2 and 2. An easy way to think of these is just to take the square root of 4 and then make one positive and one negative to see which ones work. So my answer is then x minus 2 and x plus 2, because that'll factor to, or FOIL to get me x squared minus 4. Okay, this one I check to see, so my first step whenever looking at these is to see if it's a GCF. So this one has a GCF of 5, so I can divide 5 from both of them. Remember to have your 5 sitting on the outside. So it's going to get me x squared, -5 divided by 5 is just -1. Now I check to see if I can factor this. So two things that multiply to get me -1 and add to get me 0. So we can do x minus 1 and x plus 1, because if we took the square root of 1, we would get 1, and then 1 has to be positive and 1 has to be negative. So there is my answer. And don't forget the GCF sitting on the outside. Okay, check to see if we have a GCF for this. Doesn't look like 2 can go into them, 4 can go into both of them, 5 can go into both of them. So I'm just going to take, because they're both perfect squares, we're going to take the square root of them. So the square root of 25 is going to be 5, but it has to be a -25, so I need one negative and one positive. The square root of 16 is 4, and then I need x squared, so I need to add x's to these. So if I FOIL this back out, I'm going to get 16x squared plus 20x minus 20x and then minus 25, so my insides will cancel, so 16x squared minus 25. Okay, first check to see if there's a GCF. So it looks like 3 can go into both of them, so let's divide both of them by 3. So I'm going to have my GCF sitting on the outside. And then we're going to get 9x squared minus 25. So now I check to see if I can if it's fully factored or not. And it looks like I can factor this. So the square root of 9 is going to get me the 3, but it needs to be x squared, so we need to make sure we have x's. And the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, but we have to make sure the inside cancels, and it's a -25. So one has to be plus and one has to be minus. So that is what it is, fully factored. Okay, so if I wanted to rewrite this, two things that multiply to get me -1 to add to get 0, so I could take the square root of 1 to see what it's going to be, which is 1 and 1. So we make one positive and one negative. Does that add to give me 0? It does. So my answer is x minus 1 and x plus 1. Okay, first step, GCF again. So it looks like they both have 2 in common, so let's go ahead and take that GCF out. Do not forget it to sit on the outside here. So we got x squared, and -2 divided by 2 is -1. Well, we just did this one in our previous picture, so it should be x minus 1 and x plus 1. Oops, not x squared. Okay, check to see if there's a GCF. 3 can't go into both of them. 4 can't go into both of them. So what if we rewrite this so that it has the 0 in the middle, so we think what multiplies to get me 9 but adds to get 0. So if we took the square root and added a positive and a negative, well, that doesn't multiply to get me 9, so let's make them both positive. But it also doesn't add to get me 0. And since there's no GCF, you can't factor it anymore. It's prime. If there's absolutely nothing you can do, nothing is factored out of it, it's the exact same answer as what it is before, the answer is prime. It's not factorable. Okay, so let's try this one. Looks like my GCF is 9 for this. So let's go ahead and divide it out. So I'd get x squared plus 9. Check to see if I can factor this more. Well, that's one of our special cases. So if we have a plus 3 and a negative 3, that adds to give me 0, but it doesn't multiply to give me positive 9. So is this prime? No. Okay, it's not prime because you had a GCF. You're still able to factor something out. Okay, if it would have just been x squared plus 9, then it would have been prime because nothing would have been factored. But since you were able to still pull something out of it, that 9, my answer is just this. Okay, let's take a look at this one. So first off, let's see if there's a GCF. Looks like 4 can't go into both of them, 2 can't go into both of them. So, and there's no x's or y's that can be pulled out. So let's go ahead, since they're both perfect squares. Square root of 16 is 4. I need them to be x squareds. Square root of 49 is 7. But it needs to be a negative and it needs to cancel in the center. So one has to be plus and one has to be minus. And then we need that y squared on the back end. So we're going to add y's to both of them. Okay, if we have 121v squared minus 64u to the 4th. Okay, so let's see if we can take anything out. It doesn't look like there's a GCF. So we're going to go ahead, since they're perfect squares. 121 is 11 and 64 is 8. But I need it to be v squared in the front, so I need to add a v to both of them because v times v is v squared. We got to get that negative 64 here, so one has to be plus, one has to be minus. But I need u to the 4th. Okay, so I need to have u squared times u squared to get me u to the 4th. So this is going to be u squared and u squared. So that when I FOIL it back out, it's going to get me that negative 64 u to the 4th. Okay, so if I look at this, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of variables and a lot of exponents. Okay, so if I'm asking you to factor this, I can find a GCF and factor it out. Okay, I don't have to always have x minus 1, x plus 2, or something like that. As long as I'm still able to factor out a GCF, that works. Okay, so the biggest number that these have in common, it looks like, is 4. The biggest amount of A's, it looks like this one only has 1, so just 1A. And the biggest amount of B's, this one only has 1B, so just 1B. Okay, but if I'm asking you to factor, that's not just saying, find me the GCF. I need you to divide all of these then by 4AB and factor it out. So like we did in our first lesson. So 4 times 4 is 1, or 4 divided by 4 is 1. A squared divided by A is just A. B cubed divided by B is B squared, because remember, we subtract exponents when we're dividing. Then 16 divided by 4 is 4. A divided by A, they cancel. B to the 4th divided by B to the 1st is B cubed. 24 divided by 4 is 6. A cubed divided by A is A squared, because 3 minus 1. And B divided by B just gets me B. Take a look at the inside, see if there's anything else that can be factored out. Maybe you didn't pull out the biggest GCF, but it doesn't look like anything else can be factored out of it. So this is my answer completely factored. If I say find the GCF, I just want this. Okay, but if I say factor, there needs to be parentheses somewhere in there, or if it's going to be prime. Okay, so now I want you guys to finish the worksheet that the sub's going to hand you and take the exit quiz if you finish that, or in the last 10 minutes of class. And then next class, you guys will be having a big quiz. There's 20 questions. It is going to be a lot like what the test is going to be over, but it is going to be worth 100 points in your quiz section. So just get prepared for that. If you don't understand a section, go and watch that video. Please get your forms in if you haven't turned all of them in. Please get all the worksheets in that you haven't turned in. And please don't act up for the sub. See you guys next week.